I had a buyer recently, and know the answer to this. I just want to get the legal answer, but he wanted to buy this particular property as 100% investment, right? And he wanted to buy this in a business LLC in the United States. Can he set that property up in a business LLC in the United States?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things to that. The majority of my clients that have a sophisticated estate planning component to their assets in the States do purchase realty by way of an LLC, but obviously it has to be channeled through a trust. So in other words, the specific LLC that is formed in the States can serve as a trust beneficiary under a Mexican trust. So the LLC, it can be a single member LLC that's in the US, and they use that for privacy purposes and also for tax purposes. Why? Obviously, privacy purposes is if someone happens to do a search of the property records in Mexico, they will turn out, 123 LLC instead of a last name and first name that's associated to that. So it's more difficult, even if they happen to get a copy of the deed, they basically have a representative of the LLC, which might be an attorney. In fact, for example, myself as buyer's counsel or even seller's counsel of the LLC, but you won't really have the ability to say this property is for X. Obviously, the trustee does know who the ultimate owner of the LLC is. So that's on the privacy part. The part for taxes, in the States, they do qualify for partnership status, so they have a flow-through, transparent tax treatment, so that under the U.S. and Mexico treaty to avoid double taxation, they can say, look, I have this asset under the LLC, but then they can do that in their individual tax returns. That's part of like a partnership. It's not the same as a corporation, but obviously the corporation can also serve as a trust beneficiary. So the issue with the trustee in Mexico is, one, the LLC has to be legally formed in the States. There has to be a certificate of formation issued by the Secretary of State of whichever state in the States this particular company gets formed at. Also, that document has to be apostilled so that the Mexico Notary Public can use it here in Mexico. And the apostille is basically a process where you validate that that particular document was issued properly in the state of, let's say, Connecticut. And so the Secretary of State of Connecticut has the ability to issue an apostille. It's just a term of art. It's actually under a Hague Convention in 1961, October 5. And Mexico became part of that convention in 1995. And with that, they say this is a company that's formed, and for purposes of using that document abroad, it's apostille. And so the Mexico Notary Public uses the apostille of the LLC. And the same goes, for example, with the power of attorney for a representative of that, because they have to have a representative. It's being an entity. So the power of attorney needs to be, one, notarized in the States and also apostilled. Basically, the apostille would say, so-and-so is a notary for the state of, in this example, Connecticut, so that they can use that here in Mexico. And then a court-authorized translator can use that document once it's translated into Spanish, and we can use those documents. But as far as the LLC goes, normally it's the formation document and the organization, the operational documents, depending on the level. Normally it's just a 5-page document saying this is the managing member, or if it's a sole member, this is a person. But yeah, you can include those. And the Mexico trustee, which under law is a bank or a financial institution, basically the great majority are banks. They can say, okay, we can use LLC to serve as a trust beneficiary, and that some trustees in Mexico have had some restrictions in using LLCs because they did not have the ability to ascertain who the ultimate owner was. And if there happens to be a change in the owners, and maybe there's a sale of the membership interest of the LLC, that's when they kind of said, well, we don't want to vet a process where the LLC is no longer with the original members. And if there was a sale that took place, they should have reported that in Mexico. And so we're dealing with different people, and even though the asset is the same. And that's also very important because now in Mexico, under tax regulations, any type of change in that ownership structure also has an impact here. Because even though there was not a change of the asset and the LLC still holds that, there is a reporting requirement. And there might be taxes, especially if there was a sale. Because if it was, for example, between a husband and wife, or a father and a child, or a mother and a child, well, that's basically something that can be explained, and there's really not an actual purchase and sale of the membership interest per se. There was just a change in the ownership in that regards. But yeah, there are several trustees now that actually yesterday or a couple of days ago they came here to my office. A new trustee. Wanting to be in the business of trusts in Cabo and in La Paz in the area, and they actually went and said, yeah, we will use LLCs. And then just a side note to that question, Fletcher, is what happens with people that even have more sophisticated structures and they have like a living trust, and they have certain assets under a living trust in the U.S. Those are trickier because those tend to be a little bit more complex as far as who the ultimate owner is, and if there are changes in those documents, people come in and out of the will depending on a host of circumstances. Maybe a person that was under a will as an heir predeceases the original grantor, so you have to change that, or people fall out of liking the grantor, then they're out of the picture, so we have to change that. And what happens is that the trustee then in Mexico really doesn't have the ability to say, okay, who is the person that we're supposed to be dealing with, the executor? Well, it's not the executor because the person hasn't died yet. And so, well, there might be like some sort of a trustee in the U.S. can be, in the U.S. it can be like an individual, but that can also change. So I mean, I get the position of banks steering away from living trusts to serve as trust beneficiaries, but the LLCs they have now been using that, even though some banks have frowned upon that. Generally speaking, if you have that ability and you have those assets in the LLC, that shouldn't be a problem, and they can certainly use that as a trust beneficiary. They can't do it directly. They can't have the same LLC own here. They have to do it through a Mexico trust, a trustee with a Mexico